And don't forget to record as well. Thank you very much, Tom. So good morning, everyone, and welcome to the virtual Civic committee meeting held Monday, 4th of February. Welcome to those of us watching online, either live or later on.
Madam, it's not Monday.
It's not Monday, is it? Do you know what? It is the 4th of February, but it is Thursday.
We're halfway there. Sorry, Chair, we're halfway there.
I don't want to do another Monday, not yet, not without another weekend. I think we should swiftly just move on to the agenda. So item 73720, declarations of any disclosable pecuniary interest. To receive any declarations, please.
I have one.
20. Which agenda item does that refer to, please, Councillor Canham?
I haven't got the minutes in front of me, sorry. I think it's for the election for the Citizens Review.
That's 743/20.
Thank you. So duly noted. You won't be able to take part in the discussions or influence the committee or make a decision on that particular item. Thank you, Councillor Canham. Any other? Obviously, super. Obviously, if anything should arise as we go through the process of the meeting, please shout, not a problem at all. So we move on to 73820, apologies for absence. David, do we have any?
No, we have none received, Chair.
Thank you very much. So we'll move swiftly on to 73920, the minutes. To confirm the minutes of the committee meeting held on the 7th of December, received by full council on the 15th of December as a true record. We've all had sight of these previously, and this is just for accuracy. Any questions or comments, please?
Pass the minutes, Chairman.
I just think Guildhall needs, we've got GILD and the penultimate bit, headings right, Guildhall, GUILD.
Yes, in that first line. Thank you very much, Councillor Wright. If we can just note that amendment, it's only a spelling, so that's not an issue. So agreed to move the minutes? Sorry. Thank you very much. So we move on to 74020, which is the Civic budget. To first review the Civic budget 2020-21, so that's our current financial year that we're in, and to review the Civic outcomes within revised budget for 2021-22. David, would you like to kick off for 6 on this one?
Okay, so for the first part, which is the current year budget, as you can see, there's been very little activity on that. There is a little bit of expenditure to come out of the mayoral allowance that's not been recorded on that particular budget sheet. The mayor actually purchased some Christmas hampers for the residents of the almshouses, and they distributed those just prior to Christmas. The feedback was very positive, so that's all good. But there's I think it's literally something like £130 still to be attached to his particular allowance. Apart from that, we haven't any other activity to report.
Thank you, David. Are there any questions or queries from the committee on that? As you'll appreciate, it's been a rather quiet year.
If I may, Chair.
Yes, please.
Given the lack of activity and lack of expenditure, presumably we're looking to have a little bit of a surplus. I'm wondering, there's something that Dave and I spoke about last week, was the panels on the Guildhall external. Now, this may be the wrong place, but I'm just thinking where we get the money from, David. The images we've got, I've had a number of people say, who are these people of the images? And we got a quote from Mark, who did the pictures, to how much it would cost us to sign right at the bottom of them the names, so Joseph Williamson, Julep Singh and things like that. But also there's a little bit of water damage where the water's like capillary action between the perspex and the picture, and he was offering to repaint the white border before he did the wording, and that was going to come to £240 to do those images. I'm just conscious, I know it's not an agenda item, but it is below the threshold which officers could authorised. But as I said, I wondered if it's possible we could look to this budget or David under repairs under the VEM or the Guildhall project. David, what are your thoughts?
We'll talk about the Guildhall project a little bit later in this meeting so I'll give you an update of where we are. We're just about moving into developing the displays. There's quite an expense that's attached to that, so I'm not sure even with this small sum of money there'd be too much leeway in that budget. VEM, there's always the argument with VEM is it inside or is it outside? So I suppose this is probably the best budget to look at. I'm not quite sure how we can be creative in terms of coding that particular expenditure.
Might I make a suggestion?
Please.
Might I make the suggestion that actually we have a costed paper, as much as we can do, presented to the next meeting. Obviously, the next meeting, whilst it's a little way away, will allow for that information to be correlated. I'm mindful that at this point in time, Civic is not responsible for the heritage aspect, but does become responsible for it in next year's financial year, the 2021-22. So if we were perhaps to have an underspend, and obviously we would need to work with the finance officer on this, if we were to have an identified overspend, what we could do is, in a similar way to the projects that have been carried over, effectively carry that into the next financial year when we do have responsibility for that, and deliver that, and we could deliver that quite quickly, and hopefully obviously restrictions will be lifting and we'll be able to go back to a little bit of normality again. But I think if we can work up a paper that is explicitly what we want and potentially how we can do it, and I would strongly recommend engaging with the finance officer to see exactly how we could process that. Would that be, I think that's sort of an action point to take away from here, how we can achieve that. Is that to everybody's satisfaction?
That's a good way forward.
I think it's a good idea, at least when you're talking about it, and you forget the name will be in front of you.
Yeah, and then there will be a paper to present to this committee, and this committee can then make that decision, and then we can have it as an agendaed item. So I think that's the best way forward on that particular one at the moment. Is that okay?
Agreed.
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 Super. Thank you all very, very much. David, sorry, just added a little bit of work to you, but I know you work very well with Alan, our finance officer, and we can get that, hopefully, an idea of how we can do that put together. So are there any further questions on the Civic budget for this current year? I would just point out that that says for 2021-22 at the top. That is currently this year's budget. It's not actually next year's budget. So if we move on to the next element of this agenda item, to review the Civic outcomes within revised budget for next year. David, can I hand over to you again there?
So again, all committees were tasked with reviewing and revising their budgets for 2021-22, which we did, and we cut two significant areas, which were the mayoral events and where are we? Mayoral events and town events, sorry. So they are, certainly in terms of town events, they are quite significant cuts. There's a 50% cut in those events. But having said that, if you look at the mayoral events for the forthcoming year, most of those mayoral events happen in the first quarter. And unfortunately, it looks as if COVID is still dragging on, and we may well be restricted in terms of some of the activities that we can deliver. We are already looking at making plans for another virtual mayor making. The civic reception and service usually happens in June. So really, in terms of mayoral events, it's literally the Christmas Carol service. So there will be limited expenditure, as this year has proved as well that those cuts may well be absorbed. In terms of the town events, Flagging Up, we've already spoken about, was an early event scheduled for the 2nd of May. That's not going to happen. The River Day, I was talking to our partners, BFER, and again, they have doubts that we will be able to deliver a River Day in the guise that we'd planned. So again, hopefully we won't see too much impact on our events budget, as it's been reduced to 4,500. So I think by the time we get to the Heritage Weekend, which is the 11th and 12th, we will be able to have sufficient funds in the budget to deliver something over that weekend. And of course, Christmas light switch on. Hopefully, we'll all be back to normal and can celebrate that as we usually do. So I think what we've done is good in terms of being able to revise our budget, but it's an adequate budget that will be able to deliver those events. So I just wanted to make sure that all councillors were able and understanding of what we can deliver. But COVID has dictated that anyway, by the looks of it. And so, any comments, really?
Yeah. And I've got a hand up from Brenda, please.
Yeah, it might sound a silly question to you, but it's not to me. I get me brain around things. Because we've cut these budgets, 2 budgets, we've really near enough cut them in half. How do we get that back for next year? When I mean next year, next calendar year.
It's quite simple. When we go through the budget process, we put them back in and see what that looks like. It's the challenge that we have perennially, and we always will do. Obviously, as David has said, they're already making plans for the virtual mayor making. In a way, this year has been a fantastic learning opportunity on how to do different. And I know David and the events team have embraced the new world of technology and how we can stream and that kind of thing. And we're still currently learning as well. So I'm really grateful to them, and I'm sure that they will come up with further innovative ways, and we'll look forward to our feedback of how potentially we can do what we used to do, but do differently. So yes, in answer to your question, we'll deal with the budgets when we come to it next year.
Okay.
Any other questions, please? In that case, David, I think we've reviewed those and duly noted, and I share your desire to ensure that all councillors understand exactly where we are within this process. So in that respect, we'll move on to 74120, which is civic events. So obviously we've already stated it says to receive an update for any upcoming events 2021. David has already alluded to the fact that we've got virtual mayor making happening. Is there anything else you'd like to flag up to us, please, David?
No, not at this moment in time. We will be making plans. We've looked, as you've already mentioned in your previous statement, we've learned a lot over the last year. We were sort of hit very late on, very near to mayor making last year, but I'm sure the team have learned valuable lessons over the last 9 months, and we will be able to make that the kind of event virtually that we aspire to. So I think that will be improved. Again, the Guildhall, as you'll see in a second, has been delayed in terms of some of the works, but once that's reopened, then again, we're going to be able to do a lot more internal activity and events. So we will be able to deliver stuff throughout next year, COVID or not, but it will be either virtually or hopefully actually on the market and in our venues. But yeah, so apart from mayor making, we're planning the virtual event at the moment, and that's likely to definitely happen. Nothing more to report really on that one.
Thank you. Any questions for David, please, on that item?
No, I'll just say it's a lovely picture with no cars blocking the view.
Well done.
Okay, so in that case, we will move on to the picture on your screen and 74220, the Guildhall Heritage Hub, to receive an update on progress and agree any next stage future actions. Oh, sorry, I've got a hand up from Jen.
I don't worry. I was just looking at the picture. I was going to say that the picture looks nice. We just need to do something about the Carnegie behind it, or the building behind it. Spoils the picture. I did have one thing. I was going to ask one thing, though, Chair. Sorry, about the budget. I know it's sort of estimated we are going to have an underspend because of the situation. I know that Councillor Wright's just come up with this with the pictures on the Guildhall that need replacing, but that will come, as you say, when we become the heritage. We take on the heritage side of things in the next financial year. But any underspends, obviously in my eyes, you put that away to make for the events that we can do in the next financial year. Am I right that saying that we can put that away, so that it's not a case of, oh, we've got this £200 left, we need to spend it tomorrow?
Thank you, Councillor Hollis, and it's a very valid statement that you make on that. What I would suggest, what normally happens, and for members of the public that aren't aware, what we usually do is around the year-end time have committee meetings where we review the final accounts, see where things are, and we do indeed sometimes say, oh, we can spend it on this, and have a worked up paper, make the proposal and the agreement, or the committees agree to put things into reserve for a very specific reason, and our financial regulations are quite clear in stating how we do that. So what I would suggest is if any councillors have any view on how to utilise any potential underspend, I would urge them to work with the finance officer and our civic officer, David and Alan, and come up with ideas so that they can be presented in an appropriate manner to this committee, and we can make that decision. Does that help you all?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I was just sitting thinking, it's like if I've got a few pounds extra a month, which is very, very rare, I try and keep that for the following month in case something else does come up. That's all I was worried. I mean, yeah, I say, you know, Stuart's ideas, but sorry, Councillor Wright's idea for doing the Guildhall and that is really good. It needs doing. But I was just thinking anything else, you know. I'm looking at rainy days, Madam Chairman.
And we've had a few of those over the last 9 months. Yeah, no, I completely agree. And as I said, what I would request is when that final accounts position is reviewed by this committee, that we make that decision. That would be a referral through to full council for approval, if I recall correctly, for movements into reserves. And we do need to state why we're moving things into reserves. So I would welcome a plethora of papers from committee members with the how and what we'd like to do. We'll move back now on to 74220 Guildhall Heritage Hub. I'll hand over to you now, David.
Okay, so I just want to take you through a short update of where we are. There's lots of things that have been happening over the last few months, as you'd expect. And there are a lot of exciting opportunities that are opening up to us. Currently, whilst we are conducting this meeting, our town clerk is in another virtual meeting discussing with the Academy Trust how we can engage and involve our local primary and junior schools. So hopefully in the near future, they will be coming along and visiting the Guildhall Heritage Hub and learning about the Guildhall folk and actually conducting classrooms in our upper gallery. So there are 4 spaces that we're going to utilise within the Guildhall. The old small court, large court, council chamber, and where the art gallery used to be in the upper gallery. And we're looking also, as we'll talk about as we go through, to rename and theme each of those rooms and develop the internal displays to support that. So the Guildhall, just to give you some pictures from the outside, yes, I agree, it's a lovely picture on the top left-hand side. But although it looks a bit of a building site, it is a bit of a building site. The contractors tell me that actually we are at a fairly advanced stage. When weather and stone supplies permit, they will be back on site. The architect is currently on site today, and hopefully they'll be able to resume, weather permitting, activity as from next week. We have had a lot of public concern about the red engineering bricks. They are retaining walls, and the final finish will reflect the stone of the building. So they will be clad and stepped right to the entrance. As you can see, what it does show, sorry, is the extension of those steps. So it's going to be quite an impressive entrance in the future rather than this secluded porchway. So I'm really excited by, you know, what it'll look like from the outside. So I think that left-hand picture in the top corner will be even more appealing to the residents in the future. The middle top picture, I just put that in because just to the right-hand side of the pillar, you can see the coping stone, and that's the line of the level of the inside of the Guildhall. So if you follow that across to the doorway, the entrance of that, which is currently a store, will be raised, and that will be the extent of the step. And then the disabled ramp will fall away to the left, as you could probably just see that showing on that picture. So it's going to be quite an impressive entrance, but I just wanted to bring you up to speed because, you know, there's not been a lot of activity over the last couple of weeks, but I can assure you that once they're back on site, there's not much more to do in terms of getting it to a state that we all look forward to. So the first room inside the building is the Guildhall tea room. We've had some extensive work done inside, so we've moved the service counters. And we did that because the door to the top corner is access into our new servery. So we'll be able to improve our offer to the general public and the visiting public. It also makes a lovely aspect of the judge's chair. And again, just as I said in my report, from a social media perspective, Instagram, that's going to be a nice feature for people when they visit the Guildhall. Just like the Dad's Army have had excellent returns from their photo opportunities in the Vicar's office with Mannarin's chair, etc. We'll be able to do that with the judge's chair in the tea room. So our staff are busy looking at trying to revamp menus, and also our perspective is to look at displays. So if you look at the service counter on the left-hand picture, the wall behind that is where we're hoping to transfer the large portrait of Justice from King's House Council Chamber to display it on the wall behind the counter there. So the Guildhall Tea Room is going to be themed to tell the story of our judicial history and links to the Guildhall. There are plaques already on the wall denoting Sir Joseph Williamson, and again he benefacted a substantial amount of money to the town to build a new courthouse in the Guildhall. So it has a real relevance, and the fact that we've got the feature of the judge's chair makes it quite an impressive room going forward. When you come into the Guildhall, you'll come into the entrance corridor and landing. The left-hand picture is on the mid-landing, just near where our new reconfigured toilets are. There already is a town crest that's embedded into the plasterwork. And in and around that crest, we are going to have some images and displays to our civic history. The civic history will be told within the entrance and the corridor. Again, opposite the old council chamber is the wall in the middle picture on the top. And again, there'll be a nice big image denoting some of the civic events that happened on the marketplace. And then in the corridor in the top right-hand corner, halfway up the ramp, we have utilised what now is the redundant door recess and the display is coming along quite nicely, which will be to credit the first Black Mayor of England, which is Dr. Glazer Minns, Alan Glazer Minns, and the display will be given over to him. So Stuart's worked really hard on that. He came in yesterday and gave his seal of approval. So we've just got some toughened glass to go in there and decorate that up. The electricians are on site at the moment to put some lighting into what will be the display area. So up and down lighters. So we're quite pleased with the way that's going. So the council chamber, we are looking to re-theme that as our Civic links, Seek links, sorry. And we are in conversations with the Norfolk Museum Service in terms of some of the Prince Frederick Tulip Singh's painting collection. If you can look at the top, bottom left-hand corner, the wall above the radiator there will have some pictures from Prince Freddie's collection. We're just trying to talk to Oliver and Manny at the Norwich Conservation Department as to which pictures will fit and tell that story, and what needs to be some conservation repairs done to them. So there is a small budget that allows those to be done, but they tell us that there are some that are ready to go. So we will have a mix of those on that wall. Oh, Dennis has got his hand up. I don't know whether he wants to come in.
Yeah, I didn't want to interrupt, but I did want to say on the Tulip Singh room, or
Yep.
which would be Prince Frederick Tulip Singh room, I think. Where that wall is, that radiator, will the pictures be affected by the radiator?
Now, well, actually, Dennis, that radiator is a redundant radiator from the corridor with the new built servery. So we're just putting it there just to keep it on site. We are going to relocate that hopefully within the corridor elsewhere. So it may actually be finally located underneath the crest. Let me just go back. This crest here on the left-hand corner. So it will be in that corridor aspect. So the radiator actually is where another display counter will be. So above that counter will be some pictures. You'll see the old cabinet that came from King's House Council Chamber. That's been brought from King's House Council Chamber up to this room. It's been reconfigured slightly by Gavin, who's done a lot of work with us in the past and is currently working with us again in terms of displays and things. The middle section, which looks a bit bleak, will have a large monitor. So again, when we have Seek visitors and general public visitors, heritage events, etc., they will play videos to tell the wider story. But also, we do need to generate income from our rooms, and this will be a business meeting room which people can have presentations on. Again, the top left-hand corner just shows wall space where other displays will be hung. And we are waiting to try and broker meetings with the Sikh community, Peter Bans, and the Anglo-Sikh Heritage Trust as to what they would like to see within that room, because it's their heritage and they are the experts. So we want their input into it. But actually, you know, COVID has stopped the actual physical meetings, but we're trying to broker some virtual ones to find out what we need to do there. The large court, and this is something that we just need to talk about. We've talked about the Guildhall Tea Room. We've talked about the Guildhall Upper Gallery. We've talked about the Sikh Room or any other donation to that themed room that we might re-theme and rename that room. The Guildhall Large Court is our biggest space, and it will be an area that we will market for other activities. Currently, we are looking to trying to register that for wedding ceremonies and things. So we'd like to call it something more than just the Guildhall Large Court. So we're open to suggestions in a second, once I've finished waffling. But what I'd like to just show you is another aspect that we've built, which is the store cupboard underneath the balcony. So you can see that bottom left-hand area. I think they've done a great job, the guys who have built that. It looks as if it's always been there. And actually, in the future, where we've got tables and chairs that are not being used currently, it's a valuable space to keep that nice and tidy. So it's an excellent space. The two images at the top, and maybe we can bring Stuart in here. Rem has already allocated some money to create large-scale acoustic artwork panels. So it will help us in terms of trying to combat our acoustic issues in the big domed room. But we also will have some very impressive displays as to our wider heritage. So there's just a couple of examples of the images that we've currently bought. And there will be 5 images around those kind of big walled spaces above the dado rail, between the picture rail and dado rail around the room. So I know the left-hand one is Boudica. I'll let Stuart talk about the other one because I've forgotten what that right-hand one is, Stuart. So I'll just have a quick glass of water and let you take over.
Thank you, David. Yes, so as David said, we've got Boudica there, which will be cropped and probably photoshopped to fill the space so it doesn't look as harsh as it does there. The one on the right is a image of King Edmund being fighting the Vikings who wintered in Thetford before they put him to death. But just allowing us there to take our part of the St Edmund story. It's not all about Bury. We might as well have a little bit about this. It'll be cropped probably so you get the square and the header board there as well to bring it in. We've got a couple more images on order, one from St George's Chapel, Windsor, which have agreed for us to have, which shows Henry Fitzroy, Henry VIII's son. Probably there's only 2 images of him in paintings, and they've agreed for us to have a copy of that to use, where he's in procession with King Henry VIII. He was buried in Thetford Priory before his tomb was moved to Framlingham. So we've got that one. And Reading Abbey, we're in talks with about an image of John of Gaunt, the Duke of Lancaster, who had a big influence in Thetford's mayoral history. So what I've tried to do is source images that we don't normally see, so it makes it a little bit of a unique selling point for the Guildhall. There will be one sentence underneath each picture, so people will know who they are and why it's important for Thetford. Again, this is, the images, we're getting them reasonable price, 50 to £100 copyright images, but they are things that we don't normally see about the town and give us that link to Thetford's history, which we don't normally have. We often see the Thomas Paine and bits and pieces of that, but these are different ones, and it's nice to see that we're moving forward on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart, and I do look forward to being involved with the conversations as this goes forward, because, as you rightly say, Thetford has such a myriad of history. It's quite difficult to pin any one thing to Thetford, as we've found with some of the projects that have gone on in the past. David, is there anything else you'd like to add at this stage? I do have Brenda and Jen with their hands up.
Well, I'm happy to let Brenda and Jen have some input. What I would say is, from this agenda item, what we're really looking for the committee to think about is the 4th room, which is the large court. So we just need some suggestions as to what we might rename that room. One of the suggestions that has come forward is the Sir Joseph Williamson room, for obvious reasons, but we're open to other suggestions. But yes, I'll defer to Brenda and Jen. That's fine.
Thank you, David. On a personal note, I quite like the Sir Joseph Williamson ring, but then I have to declare an interest in that because I am a treasurer for a number of his charities. I'll take Councillor Canham first, please.
Thank you. Actually, that was one of my questions, the naming of the rooms. Just because I was looking at the cafe area, would you name that after an old judge? I don't know. I'm just thinking how we're going to name these rooms. But I do like the Sir Joseph Williams rooms. The other one was the flooring as you go in to the Guildhall, because that was sort of like pattern flooring, which I do like. I don't know what you've done about that. I know at one time we were saying we'll try and get it all done again. And the last one was, if we've moved what I call the twinning cupboard, where is all that stuff gone? Are we going to be displaying that anywhere, or do we keep, actually, where is it? Because that's still part of, it's the history of the future, that the towns that we were twinned with. And that was my 3 questions.
Thank you, Brenda. David, would you like to pick up on those, please?
Okay, so firstly, the mosaic flooring in the first part of the entrance into the Guildhall. There is currently no provision within the Guildhall Heritage Hub funding from National Heritage Lottery Fund, but we are looking to that and we've had discussions about that. There are a couple of cracks and repairs that need to be made, so that's something that we do need to look at for the future. In terms of the Guildhall tea room, yes, we are open to suggestions, although we want to be able to market the fact that we have a tea room in the Guildhall, because again, that's a nice income generator, hopefully, to be able to enable us to do all the lovely, weird and wonderful things in the future. In terms of the Civic twinning artifacts, memorabilia, etc., we did have a discussion in the past about future-proofing the King's House Council Chamber. And one of the conversations that was had is to try and streamline what we actually display within that room. There was a myriad of stuff from twinning to even stuff about George Staniforth and all that kind of stuff. So currently the room has been redecorated. The carpets are in reasonable condition. They need to be cleaned. The podium has been removed, and we did talk about moving the tables and the mayor's upper table around to sort of form a different aspect within the room. So in a future meeting, because again, as you say, going forward, this committee does take on the heritage factor of what the council does. So I think we're at a stage now where we should be looking at how and what we display within King's House Council Chamber, because we've always said that that is our civic home, that particular room. So I think we're at a stage now where we do need to look at that. Everything has been taken off the walls and display counters and things, and stored within what they call Annie's room in above the mayor's parlour. So again, it's another project for this committee to look at. How do we display? What do we display? And let's try and get that back on the issue. So I'm happy to bring that forward, do a short report, provide some photos, get that out to the committee members before next civic meeting, so we've got a heads up, and maybe have a conversation around that. But in terms of today, really, yes, I'm happy to take suggestions for the tea room, but I think we do need to make sure that under no circumstances people know we have a tea room. But it's the large court I'd like to rename, because I'm in the process of registering that room for wedding ceremonies, and I'd like to start thinking about the marketing plan. And I need to think that you can get married in the such and such room at Thetford Guildhall. I think Jen's still got a hand up.
Thank you, David. Yes, she has. So, Councillor Hollis, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Brenda asked a lot of the questions I was going to ask, but the large court, yeah, with that Williamson, did you say? That sounds quite a good idea for a name on that one. But I will just jump to the tea room though. Could we not call it the Guildhall Court Tea Room? Because of the judge's chair, you're still incorporating the fact that it was a court. So it still could be the Guildhall Tea Room, but with the Guildhall Court Tea Room. Or, yeah. And the other thing, I know I am jumping back, I know, and I know David said about the name for the thing, and I agree with what was suggested. Will the furniture in the tea rooms be of an age where it fits what the room looks like? And they all look lovely. It all looks really lovely. Well done to everybody that's been involved.
David, please.
So just to answer those questions, Jen, yeah, I mean, I'm happy to float some of the ideas around for the tea room. Maybe you've thrown in one, maybe there's some examples that people might be able to think of over the next week or two. So send those suggestions in to me. In terms of the furniture, Jen, the bases of the current tables that were in there are in keeping. They're sort of that sort of wrought iron heritage feel. The tabletops, again, they are that sort of mahogany look, but they need to be of a nature that they can be hygienically cleaned and things. But we will be looking at the chairs. So again, we need to look at something that's going to fit with the theme of the room. So you're absolutely right. That's something that will be looked at in the next few weeks as we gear up to reopen.
Lovely. Thank you, David. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you both. Stuart, I have your hand up, please.
Yeah, not wanting to muddy the waters, but I probably will. Accept Jenny's idea to try and bring out the courthouse aspect of the Guildhall. Really, it's lovely to have that link back. Possibly a reference to the sizes may be something, but the small court was built, or the earlier version of the small court was built with Williamson's money. So if anything, really, the link is with Williamson is for the small court. So is it the Williamson tea room? But I think Guildhall tea room sounds quite good and snappy, so I'll probably stick with that. The only concern of using Williamson for the large court is the grammar school does have a Williamson Hall, which is the old girls' gym, and I didn't want us to get confusion ensuing. Sometimes, if people book the Williamson Hall, they may get confused with the two sites. So I think there's something to bear in mind, and just to take a breath and think about the implications of that. But I think, Williamson was such a great benefactor and had a big influence on our civic history. We do need to recognise him in some way. So sorry to muddy the waters.
Thank you, Stuart. So, as David requested, suggestions on a postcard within the next 2 weeks, please. And by all means, please engage with our local community and see what suggestions they perhaps have as well. Is that enough on that one, David?
Yes, that's excellent, Chair. Thank you.
I had raised my hand again, Mr. Chairman.
Apologies, Brenda. I will take you in a moment. I'm mindful that Councillor Crawford hasn't commented on this item yet. Dennis, is there anything you'd like to add?
Well, no, I'm just adding what the others have been saying. I mean, the renovation to the Guildhall looks absolutely fantastic, and I do like things. And I'm just sitting here trying to figure out a name for the large court. But yeah, I'm in agreement with what everybody said so far. Thank you.
You're very welcome, Councillor Crawford. Councillor Cannon, please.
Yeah, it's just a thought, because we're calling it a tea room, and images to me, especially if I'm going into an old place, a tea room means like a teapot, and obviously you have options, but I'm wondering if they've given any thought to the way that they're serving, because it was all mugs, but I'm just wondering whether you had the old-fashioned teapot, because it's a tea room. That's just my thoughts, really.
Thank you, Councillor Cannon. I do believe that we're straying off the actual agenda item. The specific request from the officer is the naming side of things. I'm really mindful that of what you say in relation to the tea rooms, and that would be for whoever ends up delivering those services. I would hate to get to the point where we have them dressed as wenches, though. But the officer's request was to answers on a postcard. So if we can please feed back to David some ideas and suggestions in relation to the name of the large court, which is his request today. And then if we can start pulling the other ideas together, that would be fantastic. So thank you very much. We move then on to agenda item 74320, which is the Honoured Citizens Award. Now, I would like to make a proposal to this committee that, due to the nature of the name suggestions that we've had and how they're outlined, that we move this particular item below the line, so that we're not discussing individuals in public. So I propose that to consider resolving that, pursuant to the Public Bodies Admission to Meetings Act 1960, the press and public be excluded from this agenda item, and we move it below the line later. but we will now take the committee officers update and the community engagement item. Is that to this committee's satisfaction, please?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Agree.
Any objections? Super. So in that case, we defer that item till later in the meeting and we move on to 74420, which is the committee officers update. David had sent out quite a considerable briefing notice to us all. David, is there anything else that you'd like to add in addition to all of that?
No, I'm fine, thank you.
Thank you. And then 74520, community engagement, to discuss and agree any consultation or media release required. Would we be looking at perhaps engaging with the community in the naming, or would we like to just bounce our ideas around ourselves in regards to the name of the large court? And obviously, once the item is resolved that we've moved now below the line, we can engage a press release on that. Is there anything else that anybody would like to suggest? What are your thoughts on the naming issue? Brenda, I've got your hand up, please.
Oh, sorry, I'll take it down.
That's all right, not a problem at all.
Yeah, if I can come in, Jane.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic, Stuart. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's an opportunity to publicise and to inform the public what's happening at the Guildhall by saying about the naming. We're considering, renaming the large court, and we welcome public suggestions. And that way, you can also start the publicity build for when you reopen it.
Thank you, Stuart. Yeah, I'm just really, on the flip side of things, I'm kind of mindful that we've got consultation fever happening at the moment. But yeah, it's a very specific.
We welcome suggestions and leave it like that. You're not asking them to do a complete form filling in.
Yeah, I think that would be really nice. David, is that something that's manageable?
Yeah, I think we're at a stage now where all the rooms are redecorated. There's a little bit of room, as you saw on some of the slides, that Gavin is just finishing off those displays once they're decorated. We are in a good position to sort of, do a piece that, we've got to this stage. Yes, there's a bit more work outside to do, but we're really excited. This is how we'll theme. And as Stuart said, we can just sort of gently mention the fact that we are looking to rename the large court and we would welcome any suggestions. So please contact blah, blah, blah. So we could do something like that for definite. Yeah.
Fabulous. Thank you. Councillor Hollis, I've got your hand up. Sorry.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, pretty much what Stuart said. But what I was going to say is, if the council put some suggestions in, and then go to the public and just say, right, these are the names. Do they have any preference on them? But yeah, what Stuart said was quite good. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, okay. Well, we can just delay that for 1 week, just so giving the opportunity for councillors to come back with any suggestions. I know it's difficult to be put on the spot to dream something up. But yeah, so I will delay that for a week, and gives me an opportunity to make sure all the rooms are cleaned and photographs taken more professionally than my little camera or my little phone. So yeah, that's brilliant. Thank you.
Super. Thank you all very much. So anything to add on the community engagement element, please?
No, thank you.
No, okay. So in that case, we will move back to the declaration that I started reading. So to consider resolving that, pursuant to the Public Bodies Admission at Meetings Act 1960, the press and public be excluded for any remaining items of business on the grounds that publicity would be prejudicial to the public interest by reason of the confidential nature of the business to be discussed, and so that members of the public are very aware. We are discussing the nominations for Honoured Citizen Award, and because of the nature of the nominations that we've received and how they've been described, it will be very, very clear who they are instantly, even if we didn't mention their names. So in order not to cause anyone an embarrassment, because all of our nominees are extremely worthy of the title, we've just got a really awful job in choosing. So if we can confirm when we've stopped the live stream, please. Oh, sorry. Do I need a seconder for that proposal, please?
I'll second it.
Crikey. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Agreed.
Any against? Any abstentions? Lovely. So that's unanimous. So if we could be informed when we've finished streaming, please.